And joining us now with more on how women can get ahead in a competitive job market is Kathryn Minshew, the founder and CEO of The Muse and the Daily Muse. And that's a career development platform used by over 2 million professionals. Kathryn, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you for having me.
Kathryn, for the first time in 6 years, the rate of unemployed women, adult women, has overtaken that of adult men. Why?
Well, it's interesting. At the beginning of the recession, we saw job losses, primarily in industries that employ a lot of men, construction, et cetera. And now that that job losses are really starting to hit teaching, it's been affecting women much more.
So is it just the sector of teaching? I mean, one of the big problems is that a lot of women are employed in civil positions, government positions, and that's been an area that's been focused on by the government, by political partisanship, or by to cut down jobs, for example, teaching and nursing. So with the government looking to slash more in spending, how's that going to affect those employees?
It's difficult. I mean, if you're an employee in an industry that's shrinking, it puts you in a very difficult position, because not only might you lose your job, but when you look out at other major employers that you could move to, especially if it's the federal government, there are fewer and fewer options for you. And that's where I think it becomes really a case of some of these women looking around at other ways to enter the workforce in different industries or different sectors, which is possible, but never an easy thing to do.
Okay, so what are those ways that women can look around, and which sectors do you think are most open to new women employees?
Absolutely. So one of the things that women are often very good at is building a network. And a network is a great way to find a new position, especially if your industry is shrinking. Women are, tend to be natural relationship builders, but they're often afraid to activate those relationships by mixing business and pleasure. And on the Daily Muse, we often kind of encourage people, look at those in your network who have the jobs that you might be interested in, or in an industry that you think your skills might be relevant in, and set up an informational interview. Go in and talk to them and understand, what do they do, and really think, how do what I know how to do, how do my skills potentially align with those of the new industry?
Are there any particular new industries or sectors that are seeing a growth in employment?
Technology is seeing a huge growth in employment. We work with employers a lot on the Muse as well, and we see a lot of demand for people in everything from engineering to social media, but also support. A lot of technology companies are also looking for online education, which can be a really interesting way for someone with a strong classroom education background to pivot their skills into a new field. They're often looking for people to help run operations at these growing businesses. I think that's an area where we see a lot of growth right now.
But isn't it a bit of a catch? On the one sense, you're saying that women need to develop new skills in order to go into new industries, but sometimes developing new skills equals money. You have to pay to get, even if it's a certificate in a technology field. That's going to set you back financially. How can someone overcome that challenge?
Absolutely, and that's a very great point, because sometimes you don't have the ability to pay for new training or to pay for new certification. That said, I think one of the incredible things right now that we're seeing across the board is the availability of free content and education online. Signing up for courses, even if they don't give you a proper certification, that will teach you how to speak the language of a new industry. Sometimes that's one of the hardest things that we see with job seekers who come to the Daily Muse, is they have incredible skills, but they don't necessarily know how to translate that into the language of the industry they're looking to move into. And that can be as simple as following industry publications online and reading industry blogs, so you start to understand the lexicon, finding people on Twitter who are in that industry and who are leaders, and following them and starting to engage.
And you're mentioning Twitter and social media. How important is that in this new work environment, to utilize social media when looking for a new job?
Social media is an incredibly effective and underused job searching tool. And I think that if people realized how powerful it could be, there would be certainly more attention paid to what you can do with Twitter, with LinkedIn, for your job search. So for LinkedIn, it's a great way to build a professional network and to find out not only who you know, but who they know. So if you're interested, for example, in a job that opened up at an Intel or a Bank of America, you can actually reach out and see that you may have a third-degree connection to the person who posted that position, or at least to someone who would be in a position to tell you how to best position yourself for it.
Now, with regards to the overall job market, do you think that employment, we saw an improvement today What is your forecast for employment going forward?
Well, I mean, it's a very tough job market out there, but I am optimistic. I do think that slowly but surely we are seeing progress in the right direction, not necessarily every single month, but I think that as, there is a bit of a transition period, and as some industries shrink, it is challenging. I don't want to, I don't want to pretend that it's not challenging for people to learn how to position their skills into other industries, but ultimately there are more resources available than ever before to do that. And I think as we see people moving away from some of these shrinking industries and into areas that are booming, other parts of healthcare are still growing. Technology, as I said, various industries are getting back on their feet, and I think you're going to start seeing big growth. I think the overall numbers, the unemployment numbers are going to continue to go down as we see people moving into those industries.
Okay, thank you so much, Kathryn Minshew, founder and CEO of The Muse and the Daily Muse.